that Father worships there too. The touchdown Jesus, clearly a sign that God is king. And Jim Plough's support for Notre Dame is another really good sign that you're on the right track. There's also owls. There's a deep love, a long abiding love for owls who see St. Mary's, his commitment to Catholic outreach, his commitment to so many things that make this Grand Valley a Grand Valley. And that story of the Grand Valley is written by so many people that are in this room. But in particular, today we celebrate the chapters of that story that are indelibly stamped with Jim Plough and his presence. So, just to give you a sense of the overview of what we're doing, we will be visiting for the next couple of hours. There will be times where there's maybe some music playing and you'll have an opportunity to talk to people around you, come up and see Father when the line dies down. There's a book at the back, just in the narthex before you came into this room. And those books are there to sign, not just that you were here and present, but to share ideas with Father. Okay? So if you would take some time to loop out there and share some of your thoughts with Father, you can come up here and talk to Father briefly. In about 30 minutes, we will have a number of people that have put together some reflections about their time with Father and his impact on their lives. And so they will come up here and get the microphone, and I hope you'll give them your attention as they share their stories about Father. Father is also going to speak from time to time, ex cathedra as it will, from the chair. And so we'll have moments in which we punctuate our time together, sharing the time that we get to listen to people's reflections. Okay, there's also lots of food over there, coffee, and so forth, served by a virtual army of wonderful, well-intended people. So please thank them for that and take your time, enjoy this celebration, and we will begin again here with the microphone in just a little bit.
That's one of the weeks
It's good that we're all talking to each other. That's healthy. Okay. So once again, welcome. And His Holiness would like to address us with a few brief words. I'll turn the microphone over to him for just a moment, and then we'll continue on with our visiting. So just give us a moment.
Celebration of life, final celebration, once in a lifetime. Our book wall was a political commentator who was diagnosed with terminal cancer, went to a hospice to die, and did not die. So he said, I'm going to have a party. He says, you die, someone else celebrates your life, you're not there. I'm not going to have it that way. I want to be part of the celebration. So we have gathered here to celebrate life before I die, rather than have someone else celebrate afterwards. We've had it wrong all these years, and Art Buchwald has it right. That's why we are here. I'm so very happy to be here, grateful that you are able to join with me, and I'm happy to be able to join with you. Thank you for all that you've done these many years. You've made my life rich and fulfilling. There's pain, there's regret, but there's more joy.
Amen.
Thank you all for coming, and come up as you want in the next half hour or so to visit. Then we'll have some reflections, and once again try to give our attention to the speakers that have thought and have some stories to share. I think Father has another story he'd like to share with us a little bit later. So for now, just mingle and enjoy, and then we'll call you back together in a little bit.
God bless you.
To share. But there's a lot of us, and there may be a game on later in the day some people want to get to. So, but that's okay, the game can wait, especially because really good teams are not in it. So, anyway, so it's got to speak up for the Broncos fans in the crowd. All right, so we are going to share.
You look lost.
There are a few people that want to share some reflections that have really spent a lot of time building community here in the Grand Valley with Father over many years. But as is his prerogative, Father would like to share a story. The grasshopper story, are you ready for that? Excellent. As is his prerogative, Father would like to share a story, and he gets to speak first. So there's a story coming.
Stories for roads ago, this would be quite fair. I'll let myself. Some years ago, when I was making my rounds at St. Mary's visiting patients, there was an elderly Hispanic gentleman seemed to be sleeping. And once in a while, I suspect that they play their sleeping because they don't want to talk to the priest. So, in my flawless Spanish, I said to him, Señor, yo soy Padre Jaime, un capellán en este hospital. He woke right up. He said, Chimayo, Chipino, you are the hospital grasshopper?
Okay, our first person who prepared some reflections is a man who needs probably no introduction in this crowd. He's been a parishioner for many, many years here. Paul Didier and Fran moved out here after having an entire life on the East Coast before they came out here. But they've come out here and set down roots, and Paul would like to share a few reflections. Is Paul here somewhere? Paul, right front and center. So I will turn the microphone over and your attention to Paul.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. We're here to honor Father Jim, a man who has been among us and a vital part of us for many years. During all of that time, he has been in many roles for each of us. Priest, pastor, confessor, friend, cherished friend, listener, teacher, leader, brother, comedian. He has a great sense of humor. Father Jim has always been a gracious and gifted friend who was and is easy to love and admire. I'm sure that each of you has experienced him, has been touched by him, or has related to him in your own way. And you will cherish that memory for a long time. In all of those roles, we were blessed and made richer by his outpouring love and his care for us and for this parish, this community. Let me tell you how a small group of us got to know another side of Father Jim. 17 years ago, we invited him to join a small group of us who were going to meet monthly to read and share poetry. He said he hadn't read poetry in years, but would like to give it a try. At our meetings, everyone reads one or two poems, and after each poem, we discuss its meaning or hidden meaning. Sometimes we find more than one meaning, and quite often it would remind one of us of a forgotten experience lived years before, perhaps in another part of the country or in another country, which are then shared. And we digressed. We all added to the digression as friends do. One of the delightful traits of this group was that we enjoyed digressing because there was always something to learn. Guess who was the teacher? What fun, what treasured memories. These experiences brought the group closer to each other through our openness to share. Good friends are a rich, essential part of life that we should all seek to find. As we have learned, we have to be a friend to make a friend. And Father Jim was always that gracious friend who was easy to love and make friends with. Fran, my wife, found a poem that speaks to the occasion and brings memories of our trip with Father Jim to Rome and Germany. The poem is written by John O'Donoghue. He was an inspiring Irish philosopher and poet and mystic. The name of the poem is a Gaelic name, Benacht, and it means blessing. In the poem there's one other Gaelic word, which is Cuarach, which means a large boat used on the west coast of Ireland. On the day when the weight deadens on your shoulders and you stumble, may the clay dance to balance you. And when your eyes freeze behind the gray window and the ghost of loss gets into you, may a flock of colors, indigo, red, green, and azure blue, come to awaken in you a meadow of delight. When the canvas frays in the currach of thought, and a stain of ocean blackens beneath you, may there come across the waters a path of yellow moonlight to bring you safely home. May the nourishment of the earth be yours, May the clarity of light be yours. May the fluency of the ocean be yours. May the protection of the ancestors be yours. And so may a slow wind work these words of love around you, an invisible cloak to mind your life. Let us all thank Father for giving us so much of himself over so many years.
Thank you, Paul. I too had the opportunity over many years now to be part of another reading club. I don't do poetry nearly as well. I was part of the Never Ending Book Club. If you've heard him talk about that in his homilies from time to time, we're the people responsible for that, I guess. And we read John O'Donoghue, among others, and continue to be inspired by all of that. So I thank you for that, the opportunity to stretch the mind. Although I do remember the last time that Father was at our Never Ending Book Club, his honesty is one of the things that is his most endearing quality to me. And I was pontificating about something, some deeper meaning into the book that I had seen or whatever. And after I had finished, I turned to my left and Father was sitting right next to me with a very puzzled look on his face, and he said, "I have no idea what you just said." That was perhaps the best summation of our time together in the NEBC over the last 10 years. So I'm grateful that you were patiently trying to, and pretended as if you did, understand what I had to say. Sister Karen has been really another one of those just pillars of our community, to really reach out to the poor, to the marginalized, to those people that get forgotten so often in our community, in her work through Catholic Outreach, and really in her work, I'm sure, throughout her life, although I've only known her through Catholic Outreach. But Sister Karen worked for many, many, many years, I'm sure she can tell you how many, with Father, side by side, trying to really live the gospel and really show people in our community what the gospel is all about as they reach out to others. So we've asked Sister Karen to give us a few reflections of her time with Father and her work with him. And I'll ask her to come forward.
Good afternoon. Our scriptures are often filled with parables, stories that make a point. So that's how I would like to begin this afternoon, with a story. Many years ago, and I say many years for Father Jim, it's been in our valley community for nearly 40 years. Father Jim was attending a meeting with some of the priests at St. Joseph's Parish. The doorbell rang. It was open, and a person who was homeless was standing there. They invited him to come in. He was asked what it was that he needed, and he said, "A pair of shoes. Look at my shoes. They're full of holes because I walk miles every day." So one of the priests asked him what size that he wore, and he said 11. So that person looked at his own, and he said, "Mine are 13. Then he looked at the other priest, and he said, "What's your size?" And he said 11. And Father Jim took off his shoes and he gave it to that man. The teller of this story ends with, that is who Father Jim is, God's servant. This is just one of many innumerable acts of gracious responses that are only known to God, for Father Jim has probably forgotten most of them. Those whom he served, though, will never forget. Father Father Jim's relationship with Catholic Outreach begins back at the beginning of the history of this organization, this ministry. The 4 parishes in the valley decided that their social justice efforts would be best served if they collaborated, instead of each parish having its own social justice ministry, its own budget, its own personnel, and all that goes with it. That foresight, as many of you know, has led to the ecumenical nature of Catholic outreach, for many other denominations have reached the same conclusion. Rather than duplicate services, contribute to the health of one ministry through the gifts of time, talent, and treasure. And some of those other pastors say to me, I don't feel guilty when I send persons to you now because they help support it. As a result, anyone can serve and anyone can be served, which is the bedrock of Catholic outreach. During all these years, Father Jim's been a faithful board member. I suspect that he could count on one hand only the number of meetings he may have missed due to illness. I always say that he has a Benedictine heart, for his attendance goes to the heart of Benedictine virtue of stability. Stability doesn't just mean staying in one place and never moving. It means being counted on, showing up, doing what you are called to do. And Father Jim has always showed up. If we counted the number of years and meetings per year, I would say that Father Jim has attended 3,200 board meetings of Catholic outreach. Not to mention his presence at 30 volunteer appreciation dinners, at board retreats and board dinners, 4 groundbreakings and dedications for an outreach headquarters, 2 dedications for the day center, 24 Empty Bowls events. Perhaps this past year was the first Empty Bowls at which he did not serve the soup. Instead, he kept an eye on the 2 long-term money changers in the front office. And greeted guests as they came by. And he did make it the night before to the first evening's glance event that caused a surge in dollars available to feed those who are hungry in our valley. Most board members are limited to a total of 6 years, but pastors are term limited only by leaving one of the supporting parishes. When Father Jim retired, he remained on the board as a representative of the pastors who followed him but could not attend the meetings. When he gave notice last spring that his limitations were making it more difficult to attend meetings, the board voted in Father as honorary board member, which enables him to stay abreast of Catholic Outreach's recent endeavors. Father Jim worked closely with men and women who represent numerous denominations in our valley. He acknowledges their gifts and trusts them, not just with the success of Catholic Outreach's operation, but with its very lifeblood, its mission. He trusts them to remain faithful in ensuring that the mission permeates all that Catholic Outreach undertakes. Father Jim also led his parishioners to grow compassionate and giving hearts during his pastorship of IHM. This parish exemplified great generosity in their fiscal sponsorship, perhaps even to the tune of parish tithing for social justice. I use the term social justice, for it is justice rather than charity when one provides the basic elements of human existence: food, clothing, and shelter, all of which are commodities distributed via Catholic Outreach to those in need in our valley, regardless of religious affiliations. As one board member so adeptly put it, we treasure Father Jim's wisdom, his intelligence, his humor, and his humble demeanor. He always has the right words at just the right time. One more way in which he exemplifies the gospel message of, do not worry what you are to say, but when the time comes, I will give you what you are to say. I mentioned Father Jim's Benedictine heart. The first word of the rule of Benedict is, listen, and no one doubts that he does listen. He is an intense listener. He is totally present to the speaker. And when he speaks, there is no doubt that the Spirit is speaking through him. Richard Rohr would call him in such instances the incarnation of the divine presence. It is that same incarnation that we notice whenever he walks into a room. He is the conduit of the Spirit to all of us. And his faith, his thought-filled words, his gentle spirit call forth the best in all who know him. Father has offered many prayers at Catholic Outreach's events, with Catholic Outreach's board members, staff, volunteers, when they have called upon him. His prayers are rich and grounded in the spirit that calls us all to be one in him, who has called us all forth to serve. So I ask you now, if you would join me in offering a blessing to Father Jim, who has blessed so many of us. And so your response to each blessing will be, Amen. If you would raise your May he be blessed for his sharing the divine presence through his presence among us. Amen. May he be blessed for being a model for stability for us as we commit our time in service to others. Amen. May he be blessed for sharing the Spirit through his words of wisdom. Amen. May he be blessed for bringing to us hope and calmness and an assurance that all will be okay when we were infirm in any way. Amen. May he be blessed for listening to many of us and for modeling for us what it is to truly listen to another. Amen. May he be blessed for always showing up, even when it cost him great effort. Amen. May he be blessed for his faithfulness to his own vocation as a priest. Amen. May he be blessed for opening his hands and his heart so that we can open doors for those in our valley who may be less fortunate than ourselves. Amen. May he be blessed as he has blessed so many during his long years of service. Amen. Thank you.
Forgot my notes. Thank you, sister. I didn't need notes for that. Thank you very much for your service, for your friendship for Father, and for all that you do, and for those wonderful words. We have one more person that has prepared some thoughts for us. But before we do that, I'm going to forget if I don't mention it, and I need to mention it, to think about Martha and Mary and taking care of Jesus. Part of it is listening to Jesus carefully, and part of it is making sure that he's fed and taken care of while he's ministering. And so both Martha and Mary offer very, very beautiful ways of teaching us about how we minister to those that minister to us. And so we have our someone in our midst who's helping us organize meals for Father. So if you have a cooking spirit and you would like to volunteer to help make sure that Father never lacks for plenty of good food, I'm sure he would be grateful that you step forward. Grace Varley, who's got her hand up over here. If you just, when we have our break a little bit later, come by and visit with Grace and figure out how you can help her keep Father well fed. That would be good. See, look at that. It put a smile on his face. Excellent. Those are the most important things. That's where I'll get the paycheck, right? Okay, so we have one more person. Immaculate Heart of Mary is a parish that is very intimately tied to Father because he gave so much of his life for so long here to build this beautiful community. And we talked about that being the dedication of this building. But there's another very important community that Father was very dedicated to the entire time he was on active ministry, and he continues to be dedicated to this community in our valley, and that is the community of St. Anne's in Palisade. And I have had the great fortune to be out worshiping with people in St. Anne's when Father comes to preside. And I don't know if you've had that experience or not, but he has near demigod status as he shows up. He rings the bell himself to get everybody started. But they just absolutely love him out there because of his connection and his commitment to that mission. And so, without further ado, I would like to call up, wrong page. I'd like to call up Ron Drapo. And Ron is a longtime parishioner at St. Anne's. And he'd like to offer a few words of perspective from the folks of Palisade for what Father Jim's meant for them. So, Ron, as you're making your way forward.
Thank you. Father, I look around here and I see a lot of people. You think they're here because they like you? No, I think they're here because we all love you. I can't compete with all those kind words that have just been said. You're some professional speakers, and I'm not. But I've known Father pretty much his whole time out there at St. Anne's. And we've never felt at St. Anne's that we were that other little church. That we are a church. We are our faith. We get our direction from our pastor. And that's always been Father Plough. He's never made us feel like we were part of Immaculate Heart of Mary. And yet, he's let us have our own identity. And like I said, I've known Father for 38 years. My admiration for him, it's just unbelievable. I've watched him and attended funerals and baptisms, and always with dignity, wisdom, compassion. I remember a couple of funerals in particular. Maybe you remember them. Christopher Schultz. He was about 6 years old. He just made his first communion the week before he passed. He died of a brain tumor. He was about 6 or 7 years old. And then Clara Horan, who was at the other end of the spectrum, who passed away at 102. Wonderful people. How you could get through some of those funerals and maintain your composure, because I know I couldn't. I had tears running down my eyes. And just, my heart is just full of admiration for you. And when I look around the room here, I can see that it's with everyone. It's so good to see so many people that are from St. Anne's here too. But I know we had to travel a long way. On a personal note, Father really got my heart this past summer when my own mom passed away. And she was in St. Mary's, and we were very troubled. And who walks in the door with communion and to anoint her? And I thought he was retired. And he never has been. And he reminds me of a priest we had. Some of you may remember, Father Bob Haberman. And someone asked him when he was going to retire. This is years ago. And he says, you do not retire from a vocation. Can you think of anyone who exemplifies that more than Father Plough? I can't. But anyhow, Father, I guess I'll close. I don't want to be as wordy, too wordy. I think everybody wants to visit with you some more. We love you. We're here because we love you. And we thank God for you, and for your direction and wisdom, compassion, love, all the good words that were said just a little while ago. We love you, Father.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you, Father.
Sixth volume, I'm sure will be pretty soon.
So, Father is not resting on his laurels because he doesn't understand what the word retirement means. And he's continued to grace us, and we've all been richly blessed for that. And he is still writing the 6th volume of Plowshares. He just wanted me to remind you is coming out soon, so you can look for that. I'm sure it won't be at a local bookstore because I'm sure there'll be plenty of copies to be available for people. So you'll look forward to that. He's been working on that. I think we were hoping to try to get that today, but today is not that day. So we're still working on that, but it's on its way. And for those of you that have had the experience of reading the earlier versions of Plowshares, the earlier volumes, I guess I should say, they're a real legacy for us. And in so many ways, that's the beautiful thing, is that when a life touches you, you can't contain that. It explodes out into all the people around you. And so what draws this parish together, the glue that holds the parish together in a lot of ways, is and keeps sharing those stories, and then living out those stories, being inspired by those stories and keeping those alive. And that's the way we continue to have that resurrected presence in our lives. So I did actually, though, ask one more person to prepare some remarks. I don't know if he actually took me seriously or not. Bob, where are you at? Bob Murphy, where are you at? Oh, he left. Okay, well, see, there you go then. Apparently he knew this was coming, so he just can't run next door anymore. Bob's moved a little further away. So anyway, so I'm sure you can savor the thoughts Bob might have had or share your own thoughts with people around. So please take some time to visit. We have time until 4 o'clock, and then, however that works from there, I have some concluding comments to make it shortly before 4. But for now, are you feeling up for some more visitors, Father? Are you feeling up for some more visitors? Okay, excellent. Well, he didn't wear his papal ring to kiss, so you'll just have to come up and give him a hug or speak to him in words that will encourage. So take some time to experience and enjoy the community that was built with and together with Father Plough, and enjoy the food and everything else, and we'll wrap up at 4 o'clock. Thank you.
I'm just going to have a hole.